Level 1. You notice the first small thing and file it away. A detour that turns into a demand. A fine that feels like a suggestion. An officer who smiles too long at your wallet. At first you tell yourself it's an exception, an isolated bad apple, but the exceptions become regular. You learn the rhythm, the checkpoints at the odd hours, the favors exchanged for silence. You start measuring safety in transactions. A nod, a bribe, a silence. Your neighborhood becomes a ledger. You count the costs, not just money, peace of mind, trust, the space you once moved through without thinking. Now you think about every step. You rehearse answers. You rehearse what not to say. It feels like walking on cracked glass. Each footfall brings a new possibility of pain. You become thinner, more careful. You learn to hold your phone differently, to keep your hands visible, to make eye contact with the street rather than the uniforms. You feel watched. You feel priced. A city that should protect you now evaluates you. It changes how you breathe, how you love, how you live. Level 2. Patterns emerge like maps. You start seeing connections. A particular precinct, a particular officer, a particular block. Complaints vanish into drawers. Reports return stamped. Insufficient evidence. Witnesses stop answering calls. Businesses whisper. Protests are routed, then neutralized. Permits delayed until the sponsor pays. A restaurant owner is threatened for not paying. Protection. A teenager taken for a night becomes a cautionary tale. You learn the language of silence. People say, better not, or let it go. You piece together the incentives. Who profits? Who gains power? Who looks away? You start to understand the structure. Corruption isn't random. It is architecture, built by weak oversight, legal loopholes, shadow money, political cover. It survives because it helps someone climb, and because it makes everyone else small. You watch how fear shapes decisions, how cooperation becomes complicity. You see the city bending, its arteries clogged with favors. You wonder how much of your life operates in this crooked current. You wonder if anyone can change direction. Level 3. Survival is not dramatic. It is practical. It is small rituals that keep you moving. You become a quiet strategist. You document everything. Photos, timestamps, receipts. A record keeps your story alive when words fail. You test phones for encryption. You set up backups in places you trust. You learn safe routes. You map exits from your building, your block, your job. You carry less cash. You establish codes with friends. A text means, don't come. A photo means, leave now. You spread risk. You avoid late-night rides with strangers. You avoid confrontations where cameras are absent. You cultivate manners like armor. Calm voice, steady gaze. You learn what to say to de-escalate. And when de-escalation fails, you withdraw. You do not believe in heroics that end in silence. You save your energy for the fights that can win. Survival is about being invisible enough to live, and visible enough to protect what matters. Level 4. You can't do it alone. You start building a web. Neighbors who keep watch. Bakers who notice patterns. Teachers who document absences. A small network is powerful. Not because it topples the system, but because it reduces individual vulnerability. You find a journalist who listens. You find a lawyer who works pro bono. You meet organizers who know how to move quietly and firmly. You create redundancies. Multiple people have the same file. Multiple phones hold the same photo. When one link is cut, the network holds. You learn to trust with boundaries. Not everyone needs your whole story. Not everyone gets access to your files. Trust is measured in actions, not words. You practice solidarity that is practical. Carpooling, emergency funds, legal contact lists. You hold public meetings where cameras are present. You put pressure where it matters. Paperwork, oversight, media. You remember, the smallest act of cooperation can save a life. and the smallest act of courage can summon others. Level 5. Knowledge is leverage. You study how the system is built. Budgets, contracts, procurement. Where does the money go? Who bids for the contracts? You follow the paper. Corruption often lives in contracts awarded without competition, in companies with shared politicians on the board, in overtime sheets that never get checked. You learn the laws that should protect you. Freedom of information requests, whistleblower protections, citizen oversight committees. You learn where the holes are. You learn what can be legislated and what needs proof. You realize change is both local and structural. Petitions will only go so far without accountability. You prepare to use the tools. FOIAs, public audits, court filings. You gather witnesses. You prepare documentation. You make the case airtight. You don't shout into the void. You create a record that the void cannot swallow. Level 6. Action comes in many forms. Leaving is a valid choice. So is staying and fighting. You choose what aligns with your life. If you stay, plan. Protect your family. Protect your work. Work with legal teams. Take complaints to independent bodies. Amplify your voice with media that will investigate. Use secure channels. Bring international organizations into view if local ones fail. Use social proof, corroborated stories, timelines, documents. Make it costly for officials to ignore you, but act responsibly. False accusations play into their hands. Be meticulous, be patient. Understand that progress often feels slow. Small wins matter. An internal review, a suspended officer, a policy change. Celebrate them. They are the fracturing points of a monolith. You also prepare to pivot. If your life becomes endangered, leave and continue the fight from safety. There is no shame in survival. There is strategy in retreat. Level 7. You learn to live with the tension. Hope is not naive. Hope is a practice. You practice it daily. You find routines that anchor you. Music, gardens, rituals of care. You teach your children truth without terror. You teach them to question and to protect. You choose stories that sustain courage. You document everything not just as evidence, but as memory. You do not let your city become a place of lost names. You remember the faces who helped. You keep a ledger of small kindnesses. They matter. They are the counterweight to corruption. You learn to forgive where possible. You learn to demand justice where necessary. You build a life that resists being defined by fear. And you invite others in. You speak clearly about what you need. You organize where you can make a difference. A petition, a meeting, a phone call. A consistent presence at oversight hearings. You slow the wind that once scattered you. You reroute the stream. Change rarely arrives as a single uprising. It arrives as persistent, patient pressure, as evidence compiled, as networks strengthened, as people who refuse to be priced. In the end, you measure success not only by arrests or reforms, but by the city that can breathe again, by the kid who walks to school without counting coins, by the neighbor who opens their door without flinching. You imagine that morning. You keep building toward it, quietly, relentlessly, with care, with courage.